Hello, parents, and welcome back to Parent Shift, a place where we speak about responsible parenting. Let's spend some time today understanding why children lie and how parents make them lie. And it's fundamentally because of the parents breeding fear and deception in their child. Let me begin by saying this that lying in children really doesn't start with an evil intent or an evil nature. It just starts with fear and pretense, something that they are picking up in their interaction with all parents and parent like characters in their life. It's their child ego state which is forced to work with whatever parental recordings that it is receiving, whatever parental strokes it is receiving from its environment, and in that sense of adjustment, in that sense of shaping, is where it is picking up the lying, it is picking up the deceit, etc. At the same time, let's look at the other side, which is you as a parent. You could also be going through your own stresses of parenting, and that stress of parenting could be making you do certain things, whether it is pretense, whether it is getting angry, whether it's getting disappointed, using harsh language, etc. And it is in this interaction and conundrum that your own behavior is changing. So it's not just that the child is lying or trying to cope with its life in a certain way. You are also trying to cope with your life, and often in that space, you are also lying. It's your lies and the child's lies which compound and create that whole atmosphere. So it possibly just started with one small little incident somewhere, but then it kept on building. Let's explore this a little bit further to understand how that fear, how that pretense has crept in through your parenting into your child's life, or through the stresses into your life while you were trying to parent and trying to do your best. Now, children rarely lie to sort of become bad or get punishment. They're not doing that. They don't want that. They in fact lie to try and be safe or to pretend, but in exchange to, or rather, instead of getting that safety or instead of getting that coverage, they end up getting punished. Lies are basically just their shields towards judgment, towards anger, towards humiliation. Lies are basically their way of getting away from the uncomfortable and dangerous truths that they have to live in their life. Lies for children are a space where they are saying, I am scared to tell you, or face you, or live the truth. So it may not just be about the parent. It may be about how they are facing or they are feeling about their life. It may be about how they are thinking that they are skilled or not skilled to live that particular truth with their friend circle, at their school, in their sports classes, their hobby classes, any of those places. A child who feels unsafe with honesty is going to grow up being fluent in hiding, in pretense, and in make believe. This is something that we need to register. But all of that hiding, the pretense, and the make believe is either being taught by the parents who are living this, or it is being taught and conditioned by the parents and parent like figures who are not ready to accept the child and the child's vulnerability. Remember, as a child is growing up, the one thing that parents always need to ask is, what is the age appropriate behavior of my child? What is the age appropriate capability of my child? What is the age appropriate thinking of my child? And the opposite of that, which means what is that I am expecting as a parent or other parent like people are expecting from the child, which are not age appropriate. That means the child doesn't have the capability, which means the child cannot be put under that pressure of scrutiny for performance or behavior, etc. If we don't do this, if we fail at understanding what is the age appropriate behavior and ways and means of doing things that a child must have, we are going to end up judging, humiliating, getting angry, punishing, even shutting down that child, forcing that child to lie, forcing that child to pretend. And that is the damage that we are doing. So be careful. So, one of the first messages that I want to leave with you here is, please, as parents, understand what is the age appropriate expectation that you should have from your child, and what is the age appropriate skill or capability that you should have taught that child to be able to live up to that expectation, right? So before you expect from your child, ensure that you have done the age appropriate training of your child. Parenting is a tough task because there is no manual that comes for any child. You have to figure out your child. While you'll get these ballpark standards that children think like this, talk like that, etc., but you'll have to figure out your own child. Remember, at the end of the day, your child's response is the best way for you to choose the effect, or rather, choose what stimuli you should give the child and what stimuli you should avoid. Choose the right stimuli, your child will feel safe. Choose the wrong stimuli, your child is being taught hiding, pretense, and make believe, etc. And that's where the source of a lot of it lies, because the child is uncomfortable, it is feeling unsafe, it is feeling an inability to handle the challenges that are being thrown at it. As a result of all the things that are happening around the child, there are 5 degrees which I have seen children operating at, or in my conversations with parents, we have seen children operate at. And these 5 degrees or 5 drivers are increasingly complex, starting with driver 1 and 2, which are slightly more simple elements of how children hide and why children hide, to far more complex truths. And let's explore these one at a time. The first driver of why children really lie is because they're simply avoiding the awkwardness of speaking up, of truth, of expressing themselves, of saying that they need something, they don't know something, or they are stuck. It could be anything. But fundamentally, what's happening is their awkwardness towards the situation is actually their awkwardness towards your emotional reactions. So children feel awkward with reality when they feel awkward with how their parents are going to react. Many times, because of lack of skills on one end, or it could be emotional balance on the other end, parents resort to shouting, screaming, controlling, punishing, etc. And none of this is friendly to the child's brain. The child's brain wants to avoid all sorts of hijacks. It cannot handle it. In fact, the frontal lobe in children below the age of 15, 16 is so less developed, or in fact even absent to a great extent, that the child is not able to process complex emotions, complex situations, and that complex conundrum that happens in the relationship with you. If you are violent, if you are too silent or not speaking up, both sides are dangerous. If your expressions are negative, if you're going to make the child feel awkward towards managing its reality, its capability. Children are awkward. If you're going to make it more awkward for them, that disappointment is not something that they can live with very easily. So what are they going to do? They are going to face that chaos by hiding. They are going to face that chaos by not speaking up, and eventually with lying. They basically want a little bit of peace around them. Now, how can you get your child out of this? If they are stuck with driver 1, that they're just awkward speaking the truth, awkward sharing their emotions, awkward sharing their mistakes, awkward sharing their gaps, etc. The first thing is for you to control your reactions. You have to understand that you have to be at a vigil, constantly observing your child and yourself, and carefully correcting and directing the child wherever the child needs direction or correction. But even before that, I'll go back to something that I said a little while back, which is you have to ensure that you understand the age appropriate behaviors that your child should have, and do the age appropriate training for your child. If you train your child correctly, then your observations will yield far less opportunities for you to redirect, and then that relationship becomes healthy. So be proactive with your child so that you don't have to react in situations where your child is not able to manage with its life. The second thing, if the child is feeling unsafe, if it's feeling uncomfortable, ensure that you make the child feel emotionally safe. You need to help the child understand that We all make mistakes, and at that age, when the child has seen so much little of the world, it can make mistakes. It can feel awkward, it can feel maladjusted, it can experience teasing, etc., from its friends, or some sort of sarcasm from other adults. You need to help the child understand this will happen, and encourage the child to share, ask questions, learn from those situations. And if the child does make a mistake, or if it does come up and say something like, I don't know this, I can't do this, etc., if it does at any point in time, show the courage, encourage that courage, encourage the speaking up of your child. That's how the child will learn to speak the truth. So if you want to avoid your child hiding behind the awkwardness of truth and lying, you need to stop reacting. You need to teach your child age appropriate behaviors to cope. You need to help the child understand that mistakes are not crimes. Mistakes can happen. We all make mistakes. We are learning. And always ensure that the child is praised when it shows up and says that it needs help. So that's driver one. Now, if you don't deal with the child feeling awkward with truth and reality, what will happen? The child will move on to the second driver, where the child, because it's not able to deal with the reality, it's going to start having doubts about its own capability. Shame and guilt is something very common in children, and shame and guilt usually starts between the age of 2 to 5, and this can build up far more as the child grows up, as the child deals with more and more complex situations. But the complexity here is that the child thinks that if I do well, and many children think this, that if I do well, I will be loved. If I don't do well, I will not be loved. Some of this happens because of the way teachers treat them, siblings treat them, we as parents treat them, and they start associating performance with their worth, and their worth with the love that they get. And that becomes a very complex situation. Many times we are complicating this by using the good boy, good girl, or I'm proud of you for having done this, etc. They need feedback, but they need to understand that at some point in time, it's not perfectionism that you are looking at from them. They are learning, and they need to understand that. You need to help them understand that your love is there at all points in time. It's not their perfection that is making you love them. It is not their performance which is making you love them. Love is given, love is there. When they behave, it's their character that is showing. And in protecting their self-image, if they are going to lie, that lie is showing a negative character, and the negative character is creating a negative self-image for them. So what they were trying to do was prevent their own self-image, but ultimately with lying, they only destroyed their self-image. They need to understand this. This is the time when they need to understand elements of authenticity, how to be authentic, how to ask for help, how to be vulnerable and say, I don't know this. If they don't learn this, it'll become a very big challenge. So your praise, and here are the things that you need to change. Praise the child's performance very objectively. Don't connect the objectivity, don't connect the praise to the child's identity. So instead of saying good boy, good girl, you should say, you did great with your exam. I see you're learning well. Or you did great with that match. Or I really like the way you have cleaned up your room. Keep up this task. And when you talk to the child, then you need to talk to the child about love, care, etc. And it needs to know that I love you anyway. I love you because you're my son or my daughter or my nephew or my niece or whoever you're talking to. So they need to know that they are loved as a human, and they are appreciated as the performer only for that particular task. Or when they are redirected, you can say, okay, looks like you missed the homework. Let's make sure that we put this into your schedule so that you don't miss it again. Or looks like you forgot to do this correctly in the test, hence you scored low. Let's see how we can practice this so that your muscle memory improves in this case. So be very factual about the performance and make it task oriented, and don't connect it to their identity. So when they don't do the test well, don't call them careless. When they miss out on their homework, don't tell them that you are lazy. When they miss out on certain marks in an exam, or if their musical performance or sports performance dips a little bit, don't tell them that you are a bad boy or a bad girl. That's what we need to understand will will prevent them from going on the wrong path. If you do those negative things, if you connect their performance with their identity and identity with love, you will teach them to lie. They will try to hide and ultimately only damage their own self. So do not drive your child to protect its self-image. Tell the child that its self-image is going to take several decades to improve as it learns, as it grows. If you don't do this, if you fail to contain the child at level 1 and level 2, or driver 1 and driver 2, which are a little bit more innocent, the child will very quickly graduate to the third level, because your frustrations with the child will graduate to the third level. So if the child continues to lie and the child continues to make mistakes, what will happen? You will punish the child, and you will teach the child to try and avoid punishment for wrong action. So again, it's going to lie. And this is the third level of the driver, where the child is now lying, not just to stay away from awkward truths, or not just to protect its self-image, but to hide its mistakes. So it will break a cup, but it will hide it somewhere. If it gets less scores in an exam, it's going to tear the paper and throw it away somewhere, or not show it to you, or not make you sign it. It could manifest in many, many ways. The child could end up in a fight but not tell you for the fear of punishment, or it gets injured and will hide the injury for for the lack of comfort to come and share with you. So it wants to avoid punishment, and this punishment is something that you have given, and the punishment could be the harshness of your voice, all the way to some parents even physically punishing the child with different things. It could be beating in some cases, but many parents also do other things, like punishing them with heavy physical labor, or punishing them by shutting them off, not giving them love, all of that. Please understand, when you punish your child, what are you telling the child? You are telling the child that your fear, your anger, and the fear that it creates is far more important than the curiosity that it should have towards its own life and figuring life out. Because when you punish the child and you don't teach the child how to cope up with life, you are killing its curiosity to figure out life. You're killing its curiosity to learn about living. You're killing its curiosity of how to deal with this world. You are creating a courtroom out of your house and not a classroom. Actually, the house, the home, should be the best classroom for the child. It needs to learn. It should be free to experiment, make mistakes, and be curious. Otherwise, the fear of your anger is going to predominate its emotions. And again, when the brain of the child is not able to deal with all this, what is it going to do? It's going to try and hide, pretend, lie, all of those things. So replace punishment with some sort of constructive consequence, like working harder, putting in long hours, adjusting the schedule, and taking away some other activities which the child may possibly like to do as leisure, and replacing it with learning activities, etc. So do that. Have discussions. Have healthy discussions. Ask the child, what did you learn? What do you need to learn? How can we correct this situation? What made you do this? What put you in that situation of making those mistakes? All of that. Convert your home into a classroom. Stay away from making it a courtroom. That's the way you extinguish driver 3 if your child has gone to that level of trying to avoid punishment by lying. But if you don't do this, if you still continue, and if you still do more damage as a parent with your anger, with your punishments, etc., the child is going to graduate to a level 4, where now it firmly believes that it is incapable, the relationship that you and the child have, it's unworthy, and then it's going to try all sorts of tricks to find undue attention, undeserved gain. It's going to learn to take shortcuts, small rewards, attention seeking. Why? Because you're giving the child a lot of negative strokes. Your anger, your punishment, your control, all of these are becoming negative strokes. And the more negative strokes you give, the more the child feels the deficit of positive strokes. And when the child isn't going to get positive strokes, its self-worth is going to dip, its belief and faith in its own ability to handle its life is going to go down. It's going to be always anxious, hyper vigilant, and in that hyper vigilance, when so much of energy is getting wasted, so much of time is getting wasted, and it has to perform in studies and this and that and the other, what is it going to do? It's going to look for undue and undeserved gains or means of getting quick results. And those results, again, the child wants to try and stay sane, try and preserve some aspect of itself, because we all want to get ahead, get along, find some sort of meaning with our life, and the child also wants to do that. So it will start using all sorts of tricks to get around your conditional love, to try and win you over in some way. Remember, it's not just that the child wants to feel good by doing what it is doing. It wants your love. So when you are in the mode of anger, control, and punishment constantly, the child knows, believes, and identifies your love as being conditional. And then it's going to use all sorts of manipulative tricks to try and make up for the connection that you don't have with the child. Again, it'll lie, it'll manipulate, it'll do things. And this is where now firmly you are teaching your child deception, manipulation, and at some point in time, you're also teaching the child coercive ways, because then it's going to also push you. By the time the child is operating at level 3 and level 4, which is trying to avoid punishment by lying and seeking undue advantage, the child has gotten into a place where it's fighting with you, arguing with you, criticizing you, calling you names, and doing it repeatedly despite the strictest of the punishments from you. And in fact, it started spreading negative stories about you around. All of that damage. You still have a chance to undo this. How? Number one, like I said, positive strokes are very important. Whatever you do with the child has to be constructive. Your language, your thoughts, your approach, your redirection, your training of the child, all of this has to be positive, well thought out, scientific. It has to be age appropriate. What to expect from my child at this age, and am I training the child for that age appropriate capability? That's what you need to be working on. Don't try to push your child. Many of us think that our child is very gifted and we need to push the child to be ahead of their age group, ahead of their cohort. Some of that also has serious consequences, because at some time the child is going to get tired, because it's not going to get to live its life the way other children around it are living. So avoid all of that. Teach true appreciation of the situation. Teach the child that it's got a couple of decades to really become who he or she is becoming, and every step that the child takes is a stepping stone towards that long-term success. Catch them doing things right, name them for doing things right, name their values, appreciate for them for their positive character. That's the only way you're going to cut away driver 3 and driver 4. Unfortunately, for some parents, even when their children are at a level where they are taking shortcuts with life, they're seeking undue and undeserved attention, they still don't stop. They still continue with their coercive means of parenting or their detached ways of parenting. They're still not paying attention, forcing the child now to graduate to a level 5. And here, the child finally believes that lying is a part of life. All of this is about even thrill seeking, because by now the child has got so much of pent up energy that it wants to test the boundaries of the system. So from just avoiding punishment and taking shortcuts, now it has become immune to that negative feeling. For it now, the pretense, the manipulation, the coercion, the deception is all about thrill. Can I bend the rules? Can I get away with this? And all that, and children are creative by nature. They have a lot of curious energy. All of that creativity, that natural child which is within them, is now going to move that entire energy into being a rebel with the system, trying to break. And its aversion towards the system and itself is going to turn into these nefarious activities. So you will see, brilliance in their naughtiness. You will see brilliance in the way they're trying to break the rule or bend things, all of that. It's their small little rebellion. Some of it is also a part of growing up and trying to find their identity and independence, but much of this, because of the coercive parenting, is also their rebellion towards you and trying to break the system. Uh, if you don't catch them here, then some of this, especially level 3, 4, and 5, avoiding punishment by lying, trying to take shortcuts in life, thrill seeking, this then becomes a part of their identity, and passive aggression, trying to break the system, authority aversion. So there are so many issues that can come up as the child grows because of you living the way you are living with your child. So the only way to shift the child from all of these things is helping the child to understand what do rules mean, what do roles mean, and within the roles that each one of us play, how to live by those rules, what are boundary conditions, that freedom comes with responsibility, freedom comes within certain boundaries. What is it to mature? What is mature thinking? What is adult like behavior? You will need to do some extensive work and reparenting with your child to take away the negative messages that are stored in the child's parent recordings and parent ego states, and to clean up the rebellion that's filling its child ego state, and help the child become a healthy adult, an integrating adult. That thinking process you will have to start teaching the child if you have to wind them back from especially drivers 4 and 3. So that's some piece of hard work. Some of it may also take a little bit of help, but can you still turn the child around? Absolutely. We keep learning throughout our life, and if you have learned bad habits, we can still learn good ones, and that's the ray of hope that we still have with our child. So be careful with these drivers. Like I said, they progressively get embedded. Check yourself, check your child, see if you're making any of these mistakes and correct it. There is still time for you to do this. The only way you can do this is by rebuilding the truth of your relationship. Ultimately, the health and performance of a child depends on the health and performance of your relationship with the child. Yes, the child brings its natural endowments, qualities, etc., and the quality of results that it gets in life will be a combination of what you do as a stimuli with your child, what the child does with its own life, and definitely the aspect of luck or bhagya that the child carries. But ultimately, your relationship with your child has a big role to play. So if you are finding that your child is in that space and lying, and if you have made the child to be in that space, well, then you need to rebuild your relationship. You need to bring in truth into your relationship. You need to bring in love, unconditional love, honesty, warmth into your relationship. You need to bring positive strokes so that you can turn down, you can tune off that defiance, that fear, that aggression, the disconnection that the child is experiencing. The If your child is lying, the cure is not tighter controls, it is deeper trust. If your child is lying, your approach should not be one of punishment but of unconditional support and careful enablement. Remember, children don't grow truthful when they are scared of you. They grow truthful when they feel that they are safe with you in real life, learning and growing to handle life at the best level that they can. That's what parenting has to do. That's the depth of the relationship that you need to have with your child, that you should be the go-to person for your child. Even if you don't have answers, they know that you will help them find the answers. That's the relationship that you need to have. Do the best for yourself and for your child. I will see you soon.